Welcome to the Four Rings Inn. Grab a drink and settle in. This is Innsight, the show where our storytellers of our main campaign, City of Shadows, spill all of the secrets on the previous episodes. We left our characters in immediate danger once again.
Yay! Yay!
Yeah, not the best. All right. I'll be your innkeeper for the evening. My name is Victoria, and with me are going to be our storytellers. We have the Lone Ranger, Eleanor, played by Aubrey. We have our first-time magic user, Renshaw, being played by Jacob. And our deadly GM, John.
Hi.
Let's go back. So the first thing in episode 6 is we see Oriana becoming a bodyguard for Renshaw. Jake, did you see any of that coming?
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
That was a prank on you.
I didn't know it was coming until right before we filmed the episode. John came to me and was like, "Hey, I have this idea. I want your character to move into the manor with the other characters to kind of create a little bit of better flow. Are you okay with that?" And I was like, "I guess I'm okay with it, but are we telling Jake?" And he's like, "No."
I thought of the bodyguard, but I needed a little bit of buy-in from both you and
we needed Aubrey's help too.
And Aubrey. And so she was certainly on board. The only person that I did not need to be on board was Jake. That's what made it fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You turned it down.
Yes.
Was not expecting it
to bounce onto you.
I want to clarify. Aubrey knew it was going to be Oriana as the guard and knew that she was sending Oriana to Renshaw's house. Eleanor heard guard and said, "Go to Renshaw's house."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the time jump. I was like, oh, if this guy's talking to Eleanor, who's Oriana meeting?
Who's Oriana?
In the office. I was like, oh my gosh, this sounds like a trap. Never in a million years did I realize it was just a time jump.
Just a setup. You were just getting played.
Yeah. I do think it's funny that in game there's a moment when the high priest leaves the Quillen Keep where for the first time Oriana's like, "Oh, this is the job I'm doing, and now I have to go to the Tierwald house." And Eleanor is like, "Oh my god, I just sent Oriana to the Tierwald house," and both of you have a quick moment of "Oh, now I understand what's happening," and it is too late.
Oh
to
yeah,
change
we had a little glance at each other, right? We looked at each other. I waved to her.
You guys had one glance to be like,
this is happening,
right?
Yeah. And then all of our characters briefly met up together after that to go visit the game shop, which Jake. I don't know if it's just Jake or Jake and Renshaw had no idea what was happening in that game shop.
That one was on you, boo.
I didn't understand. So Renshaw gets a letter. He's like, "Hey, I opened a game store. Come check it out." I'm like, "Oh, that sounds like fun. I'll stop by. I don't really play games that often, but shop local." And I go. And then it's apparently a whole conspiracy that y'all have filled me in on later. This guy's going to the black market. There's forgeries. I mean, possible murders. Didn't pick up on any of that while we're there. And I just didn't feel like buying a game.
The whole game shop was kind of out of the way. And it was. I like the choice to go there. I think that it'll pay dividends later on in the campaign. But it was fun because I knew I could for the ladies leave really subtle hints of oh yeah, the guy's cloak was wet. Yeah. I don't think he mentioned Dustfall. I don't think he said it. I think he just said that he was the cloak wet.
He just looked shady and was wet on a sunny day.
Yeah.
And Aubrey and Victoria, Eleanor and Oriana have high insight.
Yeah.
Renshaw and Jacob do not.
But it started raining later that day, didn't it? Maybe he.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It
rained later.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the horse-drawn carriage.
Yeah, maybe
maybe infrastructure.
Maybe it was a stationary front, and he was coming. It was raining just south of the city, and he rode through the rain. He came in, and he was like, "I rode hard to get you these cards. Here you go. I'm obviously still wet from the storm down south."
Incorrect.
I mean, I realize I'm wrong.
There was a war down south.
There's middle ground.
Yeah, you're right. He could have came from like one of the villages.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
So that letter was specifically written to Renshaw. Do you think that interaction would have been any different and Renshaw would have gone by himself without us?
I mean, I know it would certainly have been different.
He might have bought a game.
I tried to rope you into the black market, but you showed up with the cops and a count.
You exactly. Yeah. Not even just a count in charge of the printing press. Like the count that they're actively slating.
I'll have to go back. I'll have to figure out a reason.
I'm not going with you.
Good. I don't want you to. I want to get roped into this black market forgery.
You're gonna have to walk.
I have a carriage.
Well, our royals also traveled to go visit the Viscount Lockwood, trying to gain information about the cloth that they had, and then entered the room full of magic.
To be fair, and I don't know who all she's clothing. I don't know if she's clothing like lesser nobles who can't afford Red 4 or what. If she's clothing, the main populace.
Probably the middle class.
That's a lot of people.
Like upper middle class.
The middle class is a big section. It'd be hard to do that all by herself.
I was not expecting that to be a magical encounter at all. Both me and my character were shocked walking into that room.
Yeah. Well, we built this city has magic band in it. And then I feel like at every opportunity, John's like, but how could I put magic in the campaign?
Yeah. If you take away the magic from the city, it's more fun to put magic back in it. If you're like, we live in a super magical town, and be like, yeah, this is magic all over the place, whatever.
And we also had that moment in the tailory, that little romantic moment between Oriana and Renshaw.
Oh, yeah.
As Renshaw is like, okay, Oriana's not doing good, let me get her out of here. Goes to like pull her arm, and she pulls forward, and they have that little glancing moment at each other. That was sweet.
I thought you were talking about when the wooden mannequins offered you drinks.
Oh, the wooden mannequins were terrifying.
Super creepy, but awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really excited for you guys to go there. I didn't want to, like... She had a lot, because she also introduced, like, the Spindle Maiden.
Yeah.
And there was a lot in there. And I didn't know if we were going to get to her, if at all, or in the early part of the campaign. And, like, I knew that you got the swatch early on, and then you kind of let it rest. And then Eleanor... Did Eleanor took a cloak? Or you saw the cloak?
She found...
I just found it.
Cloaks, yeah. And yeah, but it kind of, like, sat for a couple episodes, and I was like, oh, I think they may just, like...
Just forget about it.
Just forget about it, or it's low on their priority. And that was fine. But then you guys went there, and I was like, oh, sick. Cool.
Well, I know Oriana's feeling... like, she's scared of the magic. Like, there was just a lot happening. I'm pretty sure Renshaw is also a little freaked out by it, maybe intrigued, because he's also experimenting with magic now. How's Eleanor feel walking into this room with all this magic? Because we haven't really talked about her, how she's perceiving all this magic.
The thing is especially runic magic, she was so exposed to it at Scrollspire that, like, to her, it was more like she just ran into someone doing something shady, because it's like, oh, you're not supposed to do that here.
Yeah.
But then she, like, doesn't want to be rude, and so she just kind of had to, like, kick it into, like, that higher gear, which is strange, because I didn't expect Eleanor to fill that, like, kind of, like, head person role as much as she has, but that we keep getting into these situations where, like, people are processing as people should, and Eleanor's like, I actually got this. You know what?
Yeah.
She wasn't too freaked out. It was a shock for sure, because it's illegal, but not because it's magic.
And there was so much of it.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of magic, we now have Renshaw, who starts casting magic, like, intentionally now after his fight with his dad.
Yeah, that was exciting. I'm a little worried about the content of my spells. However, I think it'll be fun to try them out.
Your abjuration?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, like, no defense spells.
All defense spells.
Oh, right. No
No
attacks.
Yeah, some attack spells would be nice.
Yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, I'm a little worried about the
You have
content.
like Dimension Door or Misty Step?
At least not yet.
Not even the good ones.
No. It will be interesting. I think
I tried not to look ahead because I didn't want to like give Renshaw more knowledge than he had.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a lot of like if we were playing like a typical tabletop game, Renshaw would be a great like support character, and especially in a party where like you have like a tank and then like a heavy hitter, like Renshaw would just be like absolutely critical in fights. But for this campaign, like you guys aren't going out and like picking fights with like ruffians or like delving into caves full of
We're not
monsters.
trying to.
Like, you know what I mean? Like you're not like actively picking fights with people. So I'm curious on how the abjuration is going to play in, because I think it's still super useful. I think it's going to keep people alive.
Yeah, I'm really excited because he has a lot of buffs. He can't heal and he can't do damage, but he can make you better at almost anything.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to watch him try and buff his friends without his friends noticing.
Yeah.
Without us noticing. Whoa.
Means at some point, just tell Eleanor. She was so cool. It's a little awkward.
She's like, I'm your wife. Just tell me.
Going into that night, did you have plans to like cast spells at the end of that episode, or were you just inspired by like the heat of the moment after the fight and like Renshaw was just getting his feelings out?
No, I mean meta, I knew I had to start casting spells so that if we got into the situation we are currently in, there was, story table,
Yeah.
why he knows how to do it already. So I was just trying to look for an opening, and that was a perfect opening.
It was really good. I was so worried about playing Arthas just because his personality is so like different from mine.
I was texting Tori. I was like, "Go check on him. Go cash in the magic."
That's really funny. I didn't know that.
That would have been
Get your man's, girl.
I know.
So interesting.
If he casted like a big spell that had like a bunch of light or something like went boom in the room, I was like, maybe I can see it from outside in the window. I was like, I don't know. I was peeking in my head. My character was peeking around. Like, can I see in his window from out here?
Fortunately, with my spells, just because they do almost nothing, there's like never a visual component to them. It is super easy to keep my spell base quiet as long as you can get used to me laying a comforting hand on your back and feeling so much stronger than you were 3 seconds ago.
Yeah, that's like a point. A lot of your spells don't have a visual effect until like an attack happens, until like they're triggered.
Hard to trace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's a great way to pin magic on someone else.
Speaking of defensive magic and some defense, we had Eleanor go out to the Grimwatch Hall all by herself. Crazy character decision, and almost get herself killed.
Yeah.
You know what? I was safe in my little shed. I hid.
No, that was good. That was good.
No, I really wish our characters went with you. I wanted my character to go with you so bad.
I loved Eleanor telling Oriana, "No, it's fine. You weren't there. You wouldn't have fit under the shed as I was hiding for my life."
That was
that was so funny.
That was really funny.
Yeah, you were like, again, being so polite and nice as your character, just talking about like the most horrific event that just happened to you all by yourself.
Under the shed that I was hiding under is so crazy.
But she might have been able to break that trinket that locked the door.
You chucked it, and I was like, oh no.
Can't I eat it?
Yeah, you rolled in that one about it, but I, like, in my head, I was like, yeah, but you still gotta try to break it or, like, smash it or do something. You threw it.
No, listen, I didn't want to, because there's no way Eleanor would have known to break it. She would know that magic causes bad guys come closer. But, you know what? I will say, I told that fucking ranger that I just tossed a magical thing that was on the door. Yeah. And that bitch didn't even try, John. That bitch didn't even try to
Well, you threw it right next to the monster.
Yeah,
it was like
also,
under his feet.
Well,
he was a little preoccupied, and he also didn't really understand the door was locked. He was just like, I threw a magic thing over there. And he was like, that's good. I'm glad you've done that. I have to save this person's life.
and then he died.
Oh, yeah. The 100 died. Yeah.
Did he?
The 100 did. The Ranger's fine.
I thought I was going to go into the woods that night.
That's bold. Yeah.
Oh, we have a watchtower, 50 feet in, and that's where I was going to be. But instead, it's a date marked on my calendar.
But Eleanor also took charge in Black Tomb. She was like the most talkative person. Another time she took lead as we talked to Hera Horster.
We got in there, and I was just going to basically be the ID card to get us in as a count.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're there, and Oriana wasn't saying anything. And I was like, shit. But then also, I was just going to say something to get us started because I do have a unnaturally high charisma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one ruling the persuasion. I wanted to just be giving Oriana the help action.
Yeah.
But then, Eleanor just started feeling really guilty about, Lucio's splashes and that whole event.
The more Harris kept talking, you just felt more and more guilty.
No.
Yeah, and then I took the conversation. There were more important questions. And, Aubrey, in the back of her head, was like, you need to be asking this and this and this. But that's not what Eleanor cared about. And no one cut her off. And so she just kept going.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I first walked into the tomb, I was trying to, survey the scene, figure out, what was happening. Oriana was still, kind of settling into, what the area looked like. And I had a list of questions, ready to go. I was ready to ask my questions. I had things, prepped. But, Oriana was going to more play, the intimidation card and just kind of, look at her for a little bit and, sit in the moment. And then you jumped off with the first question. I was like, oh, she obviously, she has the high charisma. I think it's good that she starts asking questions. And then you just kept going. And I was like, I mean, she's getting information out of her. Who am I to stop her? I guess now I'm playing support and helping her because you were doing great. And then our characters got into a little discussion about whether murder was mercy in this situation.
It's a tough one.
That was a tough little debate.
I think it's good that the guard didn't kill her on the spot because, showing up to the trial does accomplish the same thing. But, she's just stuck in this dungeon.
I know.
She did commit a crime.
We're about to become a crime scene as we ended episode 9 in a dark alley with these two cultists. A cultist that John mentioned was in my character's backstory, so I know that this person's incredibly dangerous.
I'm shocked that we got into this situation.
I am too.
It was a perfect storm of rolls too. Because I was like, if you guys rolled low stealth earlier, then Hamble would have spotted you, and that would have changed it. It would have become a chase at that point.
Mm-hmm.
If he lost you guys, and your stealth was still high, then yes, you don't gain anything, but also it's just a wash. You know that you discovered that Hamble was the person that Eleanor saw in the tower. You gain all that info.
Mm-hmm.
He got away. And then, but it was that perfect of Eleanor had the nat 20 to keep her eye on him. And then the stealth roll was just high enough that Hamble didn't see you, but low enough that the other guy did. And I was like, oh, what a perfect storm.
I did not think that was going to happen. I did not think that was how that episode was going to end at all. I didn't think that's where we were going. And as soon as we got off the episode, I was so frustrated. I was like, we should have gone to the Spindle Maiden. We went to the Spindle Maiden this one. I was like, I wanted to go to Spindle Maiden to see what they were capable of, to see what the cloth can do with what magic what abilities they had. And I was like, this is exactly why I knew we were going to get caught. And I was so frustrated.
We set up all of the possible contingencies to stay out of this though. We had the driver going around at 10 o'clock. we were making sure that we were staying in crowded areas. Like, I don't even know how we
Well,
got here.
so John is how we got there.
It's a little bit my fault, yeah.
They didn't tell us that, like, I would have liked to know that it was getting close to 10 p.m. because Elliot would have asked, like, hey, should we just, like, we watched him eat pizza. Like, at what point do we just call this a bust and tail him tomorrow? At what point, like, the last we knew, we were in the Emerald Market. And then he took us down these dark streets, and then I was like, what the fuck?
I know. But to be fair, if John had said, all right, this is your 10 o'clock like time mark, it's either now or never to get back in your carriage, I would have stayed. I would have been like, I am watching him all night. And so I don't know if your characters would have stayed, but I was staying in the market.
I would have dragged you away. 100%.
Oh, that would have been a whole different episode then.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, maybe our characters were, like, enchanted at a certain point because the one guy spotted us and the other guy didn't. It was like, maybe he just, like, Alice in Wonderlanded us until we were at his doorstep.
Yeah, I think there was also a little bit of me just getting excited because as we were going, I was like, oh, like this sets up like such a good episode ending. Like this is so good. And I just kind of got rolling on it.
It's a good story. It makes me nauseous. I couldn't sleep that night. I was nauseous about how it ended, and I was like, how did I get stuck in a dark alley, like in my heels and Julius's cloak? Like, all I have on me is still a dagger, no provision. Like, I was like, how did I get stuck like
get here? No, I felt the same way hopping off. I was like, why are we here? Like, this is not what I wanted to happen. I wanted something totally, I think, a different outcome, and yet, but here we are. We have to face it.
Yeah, I do think that if you went to the Spindle Maiden for like this night, Hamble wouldn't have been meeting with, like, he doesn't meet with these people every night, right?
Yeah.
And for all you know, like, he could have set up his next attack on you and like Sprite. Like, I think between the two, he was definitely the more like volatile. You know where the Spindle Maiden is. Even
if he like slipped into like a dimension door at the end of that alley or something, I was like, all right, that's how they're getting in and out or something. Like, I just wanted a little bit of information.
If
now we could die. Let's move into some one-on-one personal questions here about our characters. I'll kick it off and ask my first question towards Jake. With all of the cultist activity going on, how worried are you about Kaz's death now that we found out that they're not really just coming for you, they're coming for the Tyrval name? And Kaz, that's a lot younger than you. And I'm really worried about Kaz's death.
Fortunately, he doesn't get out much. But yeah, it's concerning. Hopefully he just stays within the manor where all the guards are, and
we sent more guards to him.
Right, yeah, we assigned personal guards to him.
But you didn't let him know or give him any sort of heads up that he could be in danger. You just like looked at him at the library and walked out.
I feel like that would have just caused more panic. Like, it's not a safe city. It never has been. Yeah. So, like, yeah, it's not like there's always immediate danger to your person, but like,
well, you got jumped at the temple.
It's you gotta be prepared to get stabbed around the corner.
It's not like he can stop going to school or anything. If you got jumped in a temple.
But you could also make him aware that, like, hey, I think someone's after me. Maybe they're after, like, I don't know, some sort of heads up.
Did you guys know they were after everyone by the time you checked on Kaz? Yeah, because
that's why he looked at his finger.
Yeah, probably should have let him know.
Well, you sent a note to your dad, and so...
Fortunately, though, after this encounter, they'll have all 10 of the fingers they need, so... He'll be fine.
He'll be fine.
So I'm going to ask John. Similar notes. How long has the Cult of Cinderfall been, like, building up within the city without anyone really noticing? Or, on counter, did it really start in Eleanor's manor? Like,
let's see. I think it's safe to say it did not start in Eleanor's manor. Lucille was already inducted in, and I think like I don't know an exact timeline for Lucille, but like she was probably just a disgruntled citizen at one point, and then got like roped in and on board with the cult. I think the only like official timestamp anybody has would be Oriana, who has the earliest timestamp of what, 10 weeks ago. And so at least 10 weeks, as far as one of
that
you,
I've been following the cult.
yeah, one of you is aware. It's like almost 11 weeks now. I think there's also a degree of question of like 50 years ago there was a cult here. Did it ever really stop, or did it just get like quieter and more? Yeah, and so I think that's still a question, especially because we have races that live for so long. Like an elf lying low for 50 years is
That's not much.
It's not much. Like they could do that. Even like a dwarf, a gnome lying low for 50 out of 250 years. Like that's it's work, but it's certainly like in their lifespan doable. Aubrey, after encountering the pack of Cavum on the edge of the forest, does Eleanor have any second thoughts about traveling into the woods, or is this like, oh, like that was crazy, but also like one ranger kind of had it handled. If we have a whole caravan, like we'll see some crazy stuff out there, or just like, whoa, that was really real and not okay.
I mean, she's got the date on her calendar.
That's fair. Yeah.
I think at this point she's just run into so much that like part of her wants to go just to figure out more about the Nox. Like if the Watlands are going to figure out about the Nox, like should I go for that? Should I go because I'm going to get to spend more time with like Ian Score and hear more stories, that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, she's not saying no.
That's fair. Yeah.
It was scary. She was terrified. But she did hide in a shed pretty well.
There aren't too many sheds in Vermore Forest. There are. I mean,
We'll build.
there are alternatives.
Yeah. She can hide under a carriage.
Under carriages, under trees, under rocks.
I will request a moving shed.
Okay.
Not that much meat. Like if they're going to eat, they're going to eat someone bigger.
Yeah.
Which is almost anybody.
That's true.
Not a lot of gnomes in the city.
Not a ton.
Jacob.
Yes, dear.
How does Venture feel about using magic in this upcoming battle with Oriana around?
Because of the severity of the situation, he will reveal his magic before he lets anybody die, as opposed to Eleanor, who lets anybody die before she loses the station. However, he will give up his, freedom. He will reveal his magic before he lets you all die. He doesn't want to. Renshaw is really nervous about casting the magic because he's worried about being thrown in jail, but also he doesn't want to piss Oriana off.
Yeah. So sad.
Yeah, and she's been in kind of a pissy mood lately, huh?
A little bit. Also, she's his personal guard, like.
And so mad about it.
And so upset. Oriana struggled in the presence of Viscount Lockwood, like we talked about earlier. We're about to engage with a whole cult of runic casters. With a less friendly disposition. Because she was really nice. Are you worried about Oriana's reaction in the heat of battle?
Those wisdom checks?
I mean, yes, absolutely. Like, there's no doubt about that I am worried. Like I said before, like, I had no anticipation of getting in this situation, seeing the people that we're seeing here. And so, also, like Aubrey pointed out before, like, Oriana has this vendetta against the cultists, right? Like, she wants to fight them, she wants to stop them. But also, every time she's in a situation where these mages bring out their spheres, she also gets all this anxiety and fear. And so she's kind of fighting herself between, like, being really angry and wanting to fight, and also, like, having this fear and, like, trauma, like, and memories, like, come back to her. And she's just, like, I don't know what's going to happen in the moment. Even, like, me playing Oriana, I don't know what she's going to do until we're in the moment. And John makes a decision, like, an action first, and I'm just going to, like, have to naturally react to it, like, in Oriana's mindset. And it could be anger or it could be fear, and I don't know which way it's gonna go. And so, yeah, I'm nervous about the encounter for sure.
I say we run and hide. I got a really good
second
stealth.
that.
Yeah, I mean, running worked out for their last two like big encounters.
We're nobles. There's a certain point, especially at these low levels, like get Eleanor at level 10, she might be ready to fight. But at level 2, I'm like,
Yeah.
Honestly, like meta knowledge, casters or like fighters get stronger as they level up. No one gets faster.
That's such a good line. That's so terrifying.
You get smarter, you get stronger, you get more dexterous. No one ever gets faster.
1000% right. Like if you're a fighter, I don't care if you're level 1 or level 20, you're moving 30 feet every turn. That's so funny.
So, John,
Yes.
what were you expecting us to do episode 9 between going to like follow and tail this guy or going to the Spindle Maiden?
I anticipated you going to tail Hamble only because you knew that like the Spindle Maiden has knowledge, that it has information, but it's in a set location.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going anywhere. Like Hamble, like I don't know if tonight he's meeting with a cult. I don't know if he's going to be setting a trap for Renshore. I don't know if he's going to be recruiting somebody new or assassinating somebody else. Like I have no idea what Hamble's going to do. I don't know if he's leaving town tonight, right? Like, and so I felt like between the two, Hamble was more pressing. And so I figured you guys wouldn't do that. But also, like, I wasn't gonna put it past you guys.
Yeah.
I half anticipated. I was, I guess, prepared for the day you found out about the Spindle Maiden to be like, we're going right now. I know it's later in the day, but
Do it right away.
There's, you can't see the sun from underground anyway, so who cares if it's nighttime? Like, we're gonna go down. And so, like, yeah, I was ready for it, but between those two, I was like, oh, I think they're gonna find Hamble more pressing.
John brought up a good point earlier about that maybe Hamble was trapping me. And I didn't even think about the fact we'd follow him to my house.
How funny would it be if you yeah.
That was a real possibility. Never crossed my
dude,
mind.
that would have been amazing.
You follow him to the manor. He like climbs into your window, and you're like, "Oh shit! He's trying to kill me right now."
That would have been funny.
That'd been crazy. Jake, how does Renshore feel about other Viscounts wielding runic magic?
Just the fact that someone does magic makes me, Jacob, uncomfortable. Just seeing it in the world, anytime, like even one of the priests does magic, Jacob is like, "How do you do that?" Like, I'm uncomfortable with it.
You've bought in.
I bought in, hook, line,
Yeah.
sinker.
Mm-hmm.
Magic should not be happening, and it makes me really uncomfortable to see it.
Both impressive to say from the person who A is playing the caster, and B, more meta, the father of runic magic.
So honestly, just disconcerting because that's just my gut reaction.
Yeah.
That's the easiest one to portray through Renshore. Eleanor is clearly the rich friend, providing the carriage rides around town, throwing her money around. Tell me you're not. Okay.
I mean, I have it.
Yeah. Are you worried about any unwanted attention that you're going to kind of get as we wander through the less reputable parts of town, namely my game store?
Well, she didn't like being there for sure. I kind of sucked. Just for people to hear about. I mean, I don't know if, like, she showed up and she didn't realize it was that CD. So she certainly is not going to go back. But I do think that I've built up a good enough reputation that, like, people hearing that I went to the game store, they might not even believe it. Now, as the campaign goes on and, like, the stickier situations, it's going to disrupt her social balance. It's actually just going to make her work harder to, like, show up to more social events, to, like, maintain that. It's just going to drive her insane.
I was more worried about people like thugs attacking you for your money.
Oh, sorry. I misunderstood.
I thought you were talking about the nobles. Yeah.
No, she doesn't think about those people.
Okay.
Clearly.
No.
Victoria. We kind of talked about this earlier, but Oriana upset the high priest with her lack of decorum when assigned to protect Renshore Tirval.
That was a nice way of putting it.
Is she worried about repercussions? And how is she really feeling about being around Renshore again so much?
Oriana is worried about the repercussions enough that, I mean, this is her job and she doesn't want to lose her job. Obviously, like, there's a reason she became a cloak and there's a reason that she's like doing this. I'm just kind of doing what I want to the extent of where like I'm like she doesn't want to lose her job, but she's gonna like push those limits a little bit and see how much can I get away with before like I really start getting in trouble. And that morning was just a particular morning where she didn't use up all of her rages, which is the first time she hasn't done that in 10 weeks. And so it all just like spewed out. And so for her living in the Tirval Manor now, like it came out that she was very angry about it. But like I said, like that was just her having a lot of pent up anger being misdirected and placed at the Tirvalds. I think she's like upset because that wasn't what she was anticipating. It's not what she was expecting. She was just like thrown for a loop for a minute. Like she was not mentally prepared to have to live at her ex-boyfriend's house now. My question will go back to Aubrey then. We had a really emotional connection with your grandmother when you were at the Grimwatch Keep. That was like a really emotional conversation that you had. How is your grandmother inspiring Eleanor like moving forward?
It's kind of funny because we have a little extra knowledge about inner workings. And so Yaniscor was like, oh, she was so accepting of people. And I don't know if Eleanor is taking that to mean mages. But
really? She obviously had like the mage book hidden behind the painting. Okay.
I think that's like for us knowing the clues we've been laid, yes.
Eleanor didn't make that connection yet.
Yeah.
Her grandmother was her like rock as a child, like, you know, was someone she always knew.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's quite there yet, but she is definitely going to take some bravery from her grandmother, because her grandmother, as Yanis was saying, like used to travel back and forth even when it was dangerous, like before you weren't allowed to go into the woods, and it was just dangerous, she would still do it. And she was, you know, visiting back at Ethos Grove, like our summer stay at your house, for a while. And so I think for her, like even going on the trip later, it's like, you know, it's like, oh, that's something your grandmother would do. And she's like, oh, fuck, I'm gonna go. I would like to find out more about her and about your grandsire and how they could have connected, especially her being a gnome.
I wonder if
she's
related.
kicking for a while.
I had the same thought. I was like, that doesn't work. But I was like, maybe they had a thing though. Maybe they had a fling.
Maybe.
That'd be weird.
John.
Yes.
How do you feel we are doing with uncovering this mystery you have laid out for us since episode 1? And also, like, what happens on the 1st of Asha? You know, an exact play-by-play of
sure.
what's
going on.
Can we stop it? Should we stop it?
Yeah.
These are some like heavy questions.
No, these are the good questions. So let's see. The first thing, how are you guys doing covering the mystery? I think you guys are doing awesome. Yeah, I think you've even uncovered like more than what I expected you guys to get through at this point.
Oh, good.
That's wild. Because I feel like at this point, and I think Eleanor even said it, like, I have so much information, I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
I still don't know. Like, we keep trailing these leads and collecting more and more info, but never have I been like, okay, we got enough. Like, this is our action.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have like that yet.
Oh yeah. For the first of what happens on the 1st of Asha, and it's something our characters can stop.
Play.
Yeah, I think so. The cult, you know, is trying to do something on the 1st of Asha. I believe they call it bringing Cinderfall is what they're trying to do. Can the character stop it? I think if in the point we're at now, I think you guys would have to get super lucky to stop it. But I think if you guys do nothing about it, you're like, you know what? We're done. After tonight, we're tapping out. I think the second of Asha gets way worse if nothing.
The second of Asha? No one warned me about the second of Asha.
No!
New conflict
unlocked. The second of Asha, yeah. And so I think that you guys are on the right track to do good things. Oriana,
yes.
You have really embraced your role as a cloak in the Ashen Order. Looking past the circumstances that brought you here, do you think you enjoy the responsibilities of a cloak more, or of a priest, or even like a scion apprentice more?
Yeah, I wouldn't say she really enjoys her role as a cloak, as
That's
you
fair.
put it in that question. I think she enjoys the benefits that come with being a cloak.
Okay.
And the access that it grants her in a lot of situations. I don't think she loves the fact that she is a cloak. And I think given different circumstances in the future, she would much rather go back to the enlightened and be a priest again and be back in like the world that she knew that like growing up in.
Gotcha.
Like
so that makes sense.
And that's still like a thought for her in her future that she's like, the dream to go back, but she's like, but right here and right now, I need to do this job. This is where I'm at. This is important. That was our last popcorn question. So I will throw a question out to the entire group, something a little bit more lighthearted, since we've been talking about our characters almost dying almost every episode now.
It happens.
Our characters go out to eat and go out to lunch quite frequently as a group. Who's paying for the tab every time we go out to eat?
I don't think Oriana has ever paid for something around Ventura and Eleanor.
Why would she have?
Like, she is definitely wealthy in her own right and probably still part of like the top 5% of Thalia.
Oh yeah.
But when you're comparing it to a count, I'm like, oh, you're poor. Like, it's like putting like a CEO compared to like Jeff. You know what I mean? It's like,
absolutely. That's
like, I got this.
That's so funny because we really do treat in the trio. We really do treat Oriana like, oh, you're the poor one.
Poor.
Like, you're in the workhouse.
Like, but like I could pay for my own food. Like it wouldn't cost any. Like it wouldn't even cross your mind.
Like Aubrey said, like you're probably in the top 5% wealthiest families in Thalia.
Yeah. All right, then I think it's time that we roll for our next host for our next episode of Innsight.
Oh, please don't be me.
Does everyone remember their numbers?
4.
Number 2.
All right. I rolled a 1.
A 1. Wow.
I'll never have to do this.
My Eleanor dice rolls 2 so often.
All right, so Aubrey is going to be our host for our next episode of Innsight. Very excited for that. Thank you everyone for joining us. If you liked this episode or want to know more about our campaign City of Shadows, or stay tuned for our next episode of Innsight, be sure to like and subscribe. Leave any comments below, and we'll see you for another round at the 4 Rings Inn.
Cheers.
Woo!